So, today on Scatology with Jez and Jobbie, or Jez, Jobbie, we have Alex Duncan.
I think I'm very glad to be here. I don't rightly recall the last time that all three of us were together. I think it was on your 20-somethingth birthday a number of years ago.
Yeah. Really, that long?
Yeah, I fear so, sir. It has been a while. So, yes.
Go way back though.
We do.
Uni days.
Uni days. I'm guessing about 2005.
Yep.
I calculate that based on the Blink 182 song.
Okay.
Nobody likes you when you're 23, but you still act like you're in freshman year. Well, in freshman year, I was 23, so it's an easy point of calculation. Do
people like you now that you're not 23?
People don't like me now, but there's a myriad of other reasons for that. But otherwise, yes. Thank you for inviting the probably the least musical person you know to appear on a podcast that's largely concerned with music.
And also, we don't like Alex. We actually love him.
Oh, very kind.
Cheers.
Hey, I'll salute. God bless.
Cheers.
But in terms of music, you have done. Tell us a bit about your radio. Your radio stuff.
I was very briefly on the radio in for a few months in 2000 when I was living in Armidale, and
that was before uni.
It
so
was
just before uni.
Well, it was on a university premises.
Well, we started together at uni at around 2001.
You're
right?
You're being a bit kind there. I started in 2004, and because I was an idiot, I needed to go back and redo some things. So it was sort of my second year that I met you two.
Right. Yep. Yeah, good old days.
Good old days they were.
Philosophy in the pub, basically.
Yes, and before pub trivia was bastardized to the extent that it is now.
Oh, did you go to the trivia nights?
Oh, I went to the trivia nights.
That was your thing.
And they were good old days because that was before the smartphone era and
trivia with the smartphone.
Yeah. Well, absolutely.
Everybody started cheating, did they?
Well, of course they have. They just sit there and Google
What's
things.
The point of trivia?
And there's no point in having trivia nights unless it requires you to know things. And
oh wow, that kind of sucks.
Yes, back when
trivia night with fucking Google.
Yeah, he's got the quickest fingers wins.
Quickest fingers wins.
Well, that's a rule for a number of things, but back in the day when everyone had Nokia bricks and Motorola Razr flip phones, there wasn't that opportunity, so trivia relied on one actually knowing some trivia. And they were great, glorious days, my friend. 5 rounds, $100 bar tab up for grabs, and if
nice.
If you like having intelligent friends and sharing a table with them, then then you can get at least 4 rounds and $80 worth of bar tab and get absolutely blind for free.
If I knew that, I would have done trivia night.
You should have. We had some wonderful times.
I was more doing the pool and the billiards, pool billiards a lot. Speaking rubbish out in the veranda, smoking.
Well, that was yes, that was allowed
when
you were allowed to smoke on verandas. Those days are long gone.
Oh, so what? You got to bugger off now?
Oh, absolutely,
Up
you
the
do.
road.
Almost.
Yeah.
You got to do that, man. Yeah.
Oh, most pubs still have smoking
Designated
areas.
outdoor smoking areas. It depends.
But
On
at
uni
uni, they got rid of it.
campuses.
Totally.
Yes, I'm afraid it's been a long time since I went back up that way.
How times change.
They do. Unfortunately, my days as a radio host in Armadale
The radio.
have long since escaped archiving. So they're
What was your station? What was it?
It was 106.5 to UNE, the student-powered sound.
Oh, cool.
What was your show?
I had a couple of gigs. One of them was went by the name Hard on the Hearing, where I replaced a co-host who'd gone on to other things, and joined with a very nice fellow who did a metal show on, I believe it was Wednesday nights. Craig was very much what you'd expect, straight out of Central Casting, metal geek. So long, lank, brown, greasy hair, faded Iron Maiden t-shirts, a big computer, and a shelf full of D&D books in his dorm room. And like I said, he was in need of a co-host, so I stepped in there, and I had my own on Thursday nights from midnight till 2 a.m.
Ooh, graveyard.
Well, funnily enough, that's what it was called, the graveyard shift.
The graveyard shift.
And that was made up of a lot of goth and industrial and metal and the Seattle stuff that veered close to that sort of thing.
What you mean, like Sonic Youth?
More like Alice in Chains, but
so Sonic Youth wasn't hard enough.
Well, I was young then, and I didn't know quite what to make of Sonic Youth.
I like them actually.
Well,
I had their Dirty album. That was cool.
As opposed to any of their clean albums.
Oh, it was just called Dirty. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I had. I got a bit into that, but not so much the Allison. I never went. I guess the heaviest I got was Black Sabbath. Yeah, I didn't really get into the industrial. Like, you know, I didn't really get into that.
Well, yes, I mean, it was a strange time in music when people were wondering, are drummers really necessary? And the answer's probably not. I know. All the drummers are going to be angry with me.
All the drummers are going to be angry with. I'm already angry with you. Drummers not necessary. Man, there's nothing better than acoustic sound. I don't like the like we talked about. That's kind of why I didn't really get into the industrial. I like the sound of the atmosphere of music, not just computer-driven beats, I guess.
Yeah.
Is a lot of your industrial computer-driven beats? Or no drummers at all?
For live purposes, there's always a drummer in tow, and even for some of the recording things, I think you'll find an item on 9 Inch Nails' Downward Spiral where Andy Kubaszewski is called in to drum, and he's best known as the drummer from Stabbing Westward, but we are going back a ways there.
Yeah, that's mid-90s, right?
Oh, mid to late. If you know a fan of Daria, they'll probably have some recollection of that.
No, yeah, I didn't really get into that scene. I was more into the punk scene during those years. Yep, mostly punk. I guess, yeah, that's a funny thing about music. You get different shoots, different communities, listening to different genres.
Yeah,
like you said goth. Goth was a big thing then. Cure was probably a flagship band for their group, which was cool. I love the Cure.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Lots of people do.
Yeah.
And so I suppose there's that early stuff like Sisters of Mercy and Susie and the Banshees and that sort of thing. But I think it probably hit its height with Typo Negative, which I suppose engaged in the cardinal sin of the goths scene, which is to not actually take oneself too seriously, but that's what distinguishes them.
Oh, right, okay. So you had tall poppies in the goth scene.
Oh, yeah, there was tons of it about, but Typo Negative distinguished themselves in that
those
way.
scenes sold out. That was like the punk term, selling out. What did the goths say along those similar lines? Did they have a different word for it, or did they still say sell out?
And if they did, would they consider Typo Negative that?
Well, it's a fine line between selling out and simply being successful. So I can't speak for an entire community on that. Sure. But I'm sure the comment section will take care of that for me.
The comment section. Yeah, maybe. Feel free to send comments and questions, actually, because we'd like to start featuring questions from you guys on the show. That would be really cool. So please do the comments.
Yeah.
For sure.
Good point.
Yeah.
If you think Typo Negative is sellouts, let us know.
And what the reasons are.
Yeah. See, I think the biggest example of a sellout is a band called Sugar Ray, and they were a punk band, really, and then they completely changed their style, just writing all this soft pop music. What's that? Round the corner of my girlfriend's 4-post bed every morning. That one?
Yes.
And they were like an actual, well, they purported to be an actual punk band.
Yeah.
And then
Yes,
in order to get on
every
video hits
morning
and-
there's a royalties check hanging from the corner of my girlfriend's four-post bed.
Yeah,
yes,
that's
that
right.
I
So like
I
it's like they
recall,
changed completely from this fairly hardcore sounding punk band, even almost pop punk as well, but then completely getting rid of any of that hard stuff, writing this crappy little love song, catchy little love song, and still
yes,
collecting
well,
the money from it. So from a punk perspective, they
heaven
definitely
knows the
sellouts.
world doesn't have enough catchy little love songs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember Frenzel Rom getting accused of selling out back
Mm.
in the day in the punk scene.
Hmm. Yeah, I remember that too. They brought out, I think it might have been A Man's Not a Camel, and then one of their songs was featured on a Dreamworld ad, and then
Oh, right.
they won an.
Is that what caused that?
I think so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
well,
then-
if anything, you can't accuse Frenzel Rom of not being forward thinking, because even back then their band seemed to include a girl with a beard.
Yeah, certainly looked like it. That's for sure. It was a pretty little fella.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, a few beers, I think any of us would go there.
Yeah.
I remember his
Smoke
purple
that gorgeous-
dreadlocks.
Yeah,
I don't
he's still
remember
got
that was the
those.
other one.
I don't
He's
remember
got
the
those.
girl with the beard.
The
I
guitar
remember the
player.
drummer was. Oh, anyway, I won't say anything. I didn't get along with the drummer.
Yeah,
I'll
that's
just say
right.
that much.
You encountered the Frenzel Rom guys, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Oh, just just music scene, man. Just going to gigs and hanging out, after parties, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Melbourne Hotel was the big hotel back then for the punk scene.
Is that where you saw them?
No, they had a gig in the Valley and a
Oh.
unit, and they rented a unit that we
Mhm.
all went back to after the gig. That was in the Valley, but the big punk scene was mostly Melbourne Hotel. Melbourne
right.
Hotel, yeah. I
Yeah,
don't
right.
think it
So
happened.
when I
like
started
that.
getting into the blues scene, the Melbourne is where the blues jam was. That was
Right,
like
yeah.
a really popular, really good blues jam.
Yeah, I think that replaced the punk scene.
Yeah, right.
I think
well,
they,
that's
I
good that
think
they
the owners
replaced it
got sick
instead
of the
knocking it
punks
down.
because you know what punks are like.
Yeah, that's right.
They
Little
like
rat
to
bags.
fight and fuck and stuff.
Yeah,
Get
well,
really drunk and spew on
the-
everything.
Yes, I think in the 90s, the Melbourne and Sydney both had quite strong jazz scenes, and fans would sit and drink coffee and be
blues are a
be
bit more
rather
behaved.
sedentary.
Bit more behaved, the blues fans, yes. And the punks can get on people's noses.
Yeah. That's part of the fun of being a punk, man.
Yes, one would think that's the entire point.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, yes, that is. Exactly. I'll cheers to that, actually.
Yeah, that's a,
Chink.
Chink.
So,
stop using so many racial slurs. You're going to get demonetized.
just to stick with Jeremy's theme that he's been running over the last every podcast. What do you think about World War II?
What do I think of World War II? Well,
Do you know anything about the Gleiwitz incident?
remind me.
Some
It was the
horseshit
Germans.
Hitler made up.
Essentially, the Germans did a false flag invasion. They went in and they posed as Polish soldiers. And we talked to Daniel Trickett about this a couple of weeks ago.
Because he believed
And
it was the other way around.
None of us really knew the details of it. So I've since looked it up. And so the German soldiers infiltrated this town on the border of Poland and Germany, and then posed as Polish soldiers invading Germany. So they went and started killing German citizens, pretending to be Polish. So that, and Hitler used that as an excuse to go in and invade
The entire
the
country.
entire continent.
I see.
Have you heard of that before?
Not specifically, but
I hadn't either, no.
But,
Yeah, neither had I.
but to put it in its historical context, Hitler had spent quite a bit of time in the lead up to making significant territorial gains with no great opposition from anyone.
Czechoslovakia.
And yes, the Sudeten and all of
Austria.
that sort of thing. So I suppose my as I say, I'll have to look into it because I don't know anything about it. But it seems a little bit unnecessary because because Poland, as it was then,
Pretty
was
easy to destroy. For one thing.
It was
Sorry, go on.
between.
They were valiant. They were very valiant.
No,
they gave it a good
They
go.
weren't exactly weaponized.
Well,
Yeah,
yes,
they
if
weren't
you're
weaponised,
doing
yeah.
cavalry charges against panzers, I suppose that's one use of the word valiant we can employ.
They gave it a good crack.
And the Panzers gave their skulls a good crack.
Yes.
They were the first zipper heads.
So because Hitler had because Hitler was still at a point where he had done I don't know, I suppose gentleman's agreement with Stalin about dividing up Poland between themselves, then Scattin Forest and all that sort of thing. I don't know if Hitler had to be quite so elaborate. He'd got his own way for such a long time since up till then.
And then he did the Napoleon mistake and went to Russia. Screw your agreement. Yes, we did go half in Poland, but, I want Moscow too. Bye-bye.
Yeah, well,
The end.
Cutting off the
to death.
Russians from the Caucasus was, I suppose, the principal objective. Hitler wasn't completely unaware of who Napoleon was and what he did. Napoleon made his way
you would
to.
think he would, being one of the world's leaders. There would be
Yeah,
someone
yeah.
who would have
Napoleon
whispered to him.
made his way to
Napoleon
made
did
his
that.
way to Moscow and just got the place burned down around him, and had to.
Russians did the
walk
same
back
thing. They
through
just
the
pissed off.
freezing.
That's it. Fucking
Yes.
lethal. And just
In World War II, that is. They did exactly the same
ruthless.
thing. They just
Absolutely
pissed off.
Ruthless. Yeah.
Freeze to death, dudes.
Yeah.
We'll just come and
See
snipe
yous.
you.
Yeah.
Snipe you all the way back to Germany.
Tough bastards in Russia, man.
That's true, and also the inadequacy of their Italian allies in Greece delayed Operation Barbarossa.
You're talking about Northern Africa?
No, in the Italian invasion in Greece, they
into
needed
Greece.
more German support than they should have, and that went as well as you'd expect. So.
Well, they used to call the Italians surrender monkeys. That's what the old Anzacs used to call them.
I thought that was
Surrender monkeys.
I've only heard that about the French.
Oh, the French.
Yeah.
I remember the old war
Yeah, well,
vets
there
calling the
were
Italians.
no Anzacs in the Second World War.
They-
That's purely a First World War thing.
Oh, well, the Australian veterans. I remember them talking about the Italians as being just surrenderers.
Yes, but by the time that the Allies are invading Italy, the Germans had realised they'd have to do most of the heavy lifting there. So and internally, Italy was very fractured.
What was going on in Italy?
Oh, nothing good.
Okay.
Oh, you're talking about the mafia. You're talking about the mafia, are you? Internally fractured, as in the mafia had lots of power and weren't necessarily on Mussolini's side. Is that what you mean?
Well,
That kind of stuff.
I guess that plays into it. The
Or mafiosos, because there's many mafias in Italy.
the um, haven't done enough adequate prep for this one, but
Yeah, that's right. I'm just assuming.
Yeah,
Because you've got those power dynamics in Italy, even to today. I think you still get mafiosos, don't you?
Oh yeah,
The families?
The uh, the folks based around Naples got a lot less attention while the Sicilians were being dealt with, and it
is quite territorial. I'm led to believe in Italy, but it's not necessarily just one united country. I mean, they don't even speak the same language everywhere in Italy. They have
regional dialects. Yeah,
you know that if you've learnt Italian, Rob, and you go to Italy, you're not necessarily going to be able to communicate with anybody because they all have their own regional dialects that are as different as, I guess, American accents. But in you cannot understand each other. In South Italia and North Italia, they speak completely different language, dialect. So that goes hand in hand with this whole fracturing.
What if you
Italy,
just spoke?
They can't even communicate properly.
What if you just spoke Latin? Would they understand you everywhere? Do they all know Latin, or?
It's closely based on Latin, so you might find a way, like a deeper root in the language to being able to talk to everybody.
Walk around like an old school Roman. Beno Vini Vici.
You got to work on your accent, though. I won't understand that shit.
I can't do an Italian accent. How does the Godfather say it?
There's the sort of Vulgate that they start from, but it's always been very internally divided, and that's why it's a little bit like Germany in that it doesn't become an nation state proper until well into the 19th century. In part because it's not really necessary for them to do so, because if you look throughout the medieval period, there's Italian city-states that are often at war with each other, and the reason they can do that rather than having the more northwestern European style of having kingdoms is because an Italian city-state was probably just as wealthy or more so as a northwestern European kingdom like England. So the Venetians and the Genoans and the Milanese were perfectly capable of functioning on their own, and there wasn't a need to unify. It's not until the 19th century when.
But that's kind of how the Roman Empire broke up, right? You had all your different consuls, political families in different areas, and when Rome dissolved, they still maintained their power in those governorship jurisdictions. That's how it kind of formulated. In terms of separating from a unified empire. They all just took their backyards and kept it.
Well, something like that. I mean, Rome's decline was a very long, drawn-out thing, and probably far too complex for our purposes today.
It would be a thesis, yes.
There's
Definitely be a thesis on that
Gibbon's
one.
Fall of the Roman Empire is 3 very thick volumes. In very small print.
Yeah, you could.
Actually, no, it might even be more than 3.
I don't remember.
Certainly
off
a
the top
massive
of my
rabbit
head.
hole.
But as I say, in the by the 19th century, when places like Italy and Germany are becoming entire states, the that was only by necessity, because it was around the 18th century that you find this big change in how wars are fought, and
Mechanisation.
that's still about a century off. But the rise of the mass armies and the first total wars is what
Gunpowder.
been around for a while by then. But
And what do you mean by the total wars?
well, in the medieval period, there's a feudal system, and certain people owe their loyalty to someone a bit further up the chain, and destroying things wholesale is very unusual. That's why
They'd have pitched battles out in a paddock.
yes. I mean, this
In
is
the most
why I think Edward III's son, the Black Prince, was so reviled by not just the French, but people who knew about what he'd done.
You're talking about chivalry, because in the most part there wasn't really civilian deaths, is what you're talking about. It wasn't cities just getting annihilated.
Well, there was
battles in the
civilian
Whoever
deaths,
won went, yeah.
but they're more due to starvation and other
cutting off
sorts of
supplies.
things.
Yeah.
Yep. So,
But not in terms of the direct
yeah,
attacking
Attack on
cities.
civilians.
Yeah.
to put it in modern terms, if Edward III had been Ulysses S. Grant, the Black Prince was his William Tecumseh Sherman.
I see where you're getting at now. Yeah.
I'm lost. But
No.
Just chivalry kind of has gone by the wayside. He's talking about back in the days where two armies would go like a duel, like two people having a duel. Let's have a fight.
my strongest guy versus
go
your
out-
strongest
yeah,
guy.
we'll go
whoever
out
wins,
here.
Wins
We'll
the
meet
day.
somewhere in this paddock somewhere, and we'll have it off. And then
Is that
whoever
what
wins
you're
wins.
getting at,
No,
Alex?
not even
quite.
not even so
slightly.
much that. Chivalry tended to drag out wars. If you look at the Norman Civil War, which is what Henry VIII was looking back at when he made a lot of his decisions, it can make war last longer because chivalry is a very class conscious way of doing things. So if you have someone important, rather than just killing them outright in the old Anglo-Saxon fashion, you would ransom them off, and that would be quite lucrative.
Mm-hmm.
And it tends to make wars longer and more drawn out.
That's more Somalia's bag these days.
Well, I don't know much about how they
The old
do
ransoming.
things.
Mm.
Slightly different form, but yeah.
It still happens. It's always a part of war, ransoming. You get someone important who's got money. You say, if you want your family member back, give us your money. You can have him back. If not, how it goes. Good old warfare. Gotta love it. No, not really. Don't gotta love it.
Gotta love it.
But
Yeah, war. What is it good for?
what is it good
Absolutely nothing.
Absolutely nothing except for ending fascism and slavery, containing communism, and
Well, that's what the Kurds are saying right now.
defending our liberal democracies from other, perhaps more belligerent ideologies. Other than that, absolutely nothing. Say it again, yeah.
What have they done for us today? What's war done today?
Collective stealing, basically.
Collective stealing. Ah, you're talking about government.
I'm just giving you a definition of war. Collective stealing.
I thought you were talking politics for a second.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thieves
that
and
gets
liars.
involved as well.
Thieves and liars. By the way, if anyone's interested, Edward Gibbon's The History of the Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire is 6 volumes.
Wow.
6 volumes.
6 theses.
Yeah,
Theses.
I've read some of it for uni,
But
not much. I don't think I'd want to.
Well, I think I want to. I love history,
Yeah, fair enough.
especially Roman.
Mm.
Especially Roman history.
Yeah, it's good. Like, it goes into a lot of the way that they were so spread out and giving countries a lot of leeway in how they governed themselves, like culturally, underneath the Roman rule, played a big part. That there was, as you were saying about Italy being fractured, the Roman Empire was fractured in that way as well, very culturally different all across the joint. And so there was still some, I guess, almost tribal conflicts within the Roman Empire itself. But then it also, Gibbon also goes into the Germans, the Germanic tribes, coming and just raiding, and that they just couldn't keep them at bay because they'd stop one group and then there'd be more and then there'd be more. So they were coming in, and
at
then
the
also
same time, the Germanic groups form the
Germans.
gotta love 'em.
form most of the makeup of the mercenary armies that they're hiring.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. That's right. So there's lots of conflicts of interest and tribes against tribes, and then again with the Roman Empire trying to adopt a state religion of Christianity when they'd given everybody so much cultural leeway throughout their entire empire, and then trying to say, well, now you've got to be this, that contributed to the fall of the Roman Empire as well, that they just like, well, fuck you. You said we could be ourselves, and now you're coming in and...
Yeah, the Roman Empire was already falling apart.
It was.
And it's
And also,
largely the church that...
just to finish my point as well, is that Gibbon even goes into exactly what you're saying, is that the Christian religion actually helped to soften the fall. It contributed to the fall, but also helped to soften the fall, because there was that Rome itself, Italy itself, had...
The church was established.
The church was established there, and so it was able to just sort of
Well,
maintain a sense of a status quo, that even though the world was collapsing around them, there was for the most part, a safety net. So-
Yeah, definitely.
Fascinating book.
No church, it would have been a bigger hole, I reckon.
Well,
The Dark Ages would have been worse, because the Dark Ages is referred to as the Dark Ages because...
by Enlightenment era thinkers.
By Enlightenment, exactly. Like, looking back on it, comparing it to us, well, they're not as enlightened as us. They didn't even have smartphones, so they must be in the Dark Ages. How did they not have the internet
But it was the
in
church
the
that
Dark
gave
Ages?
birth to the Enlightenment.
Well, there's a number of factors there. There's definitely a number of factors there.
The arts.
But in terms of like the so-called Dark Ages, it does have a lot to do with the fracturing and like the feudal society that came out of it, that was just pockets of societies here and there. It was almost like city-states all over again. Like these regions, tribal regions even, that had very little access to information and education, and they just, if you've seen the Monty Python documentary, they actually ended up eating mud on the streets, in the Dark Ages. What do they call that one? The Holy Grail It's a documentary about the search for the Holy Grail.
Oh, when
Yeah.
Look,
that's
Dennis,
a great
there's some
scene.
lovely
That one.
filth down here.
Yeah, that's a great scene where they're collecting
I
the
thought
mud.
we were an autonomous collective.
Yeah. That's a great scene.
But the church actually kept a lot of the records, and like they had libraries and things like that they again were able to soften the damage that could have been done.
Yes,
You
I
know,
mean, the use
so-
of things like Carolinian minuscule to keep the Latin alphabet as a unifying thing, keeping the Latin language alive,
Yes.
to have a universal language,
Mm-hmm.
and also simply in more practical ways, like the if you want to put it this way, the civilizing of barbarians, because it even well up into the Norman period, you don't have the same clear rules of succession, and the church's insistence on monogamy made things much easier, because in a barbarian situation you've got a whoever's at the top of the tree will have a number of wives and a number of children therefrom, and as soon as he dies, the sons go full Game of Thrones on each other.
Real wild child.
It ends up being very messy.
It's very
But-
ape-like behaviour, isn't it?
It is, and so
Unevolved, perhaps.
if you have the
unstructured.
church there to act as moderator and
Structure things.
well, to structure things and to provide some sort of order to what's going on, then
Chaos to order.
you have monogamy, you have lineage, and you have this cooperation between the church and the state, and that's actually a very civilizing influence on the peoples that are coming in to what was the Roman Empire. So the Vandals, the Visigoths, the Ostrogoths, behind them the Huns, all of these groups, Christianity proves a very civilizing influence on them, and that's.
Do you think we're getting uncivilized?
God, I hope so.
You like anarchy? Well, you are a punk. What about you, Alex?
I don't know if I'd go so far as to say that we're becoming uncivilized. I do believe there's some very important things that we're losing sight of, but the language people use now seems to be
Cunt.
the language.
Okay, so that's the language now. We just walk around and say that all day.
Cunt.
Cunt.
Well, that's how you know an Australian. He
Oh, that's how you know an Australian.
he calls his best mate
Australians.
cunt and random cunts mate.
Strange, you're
That's it,
uncivilized
exactly.
because you use the word cunt.
Yes, well,
That's
it's,
very Presbyterian. Are you a Presbyterian? That's very Presbyterian of you.
No, I'm afraid not.
Probably get in trouble there.
Off who? The Presbyterians?
They'll
Go nuts.
They'll pray for you.
I was born a Presbyterian,
Go
so
nuts.
I'm okay.
Yeah,
I'm okay.
I'm not too worried about the not too worried about the Presbyterians hosing.
I have
down.
some inside info. I was born a Presbyterian, so
Yeah,
it's all good.
I'm not worried about the Presbyterians hosing down my residence with Kalashnikov fire or planting a car bomb outside my house.
No, they won't do that. No,
Unless
you're
certain other religious persuasions might do that sort of thing, but the Presbyterians
May their prophet be pissed upon.
not.
You'd have to be an Englishman that really deserves a bit of trouble for a Scotsman to do something like that.
Well, yeah,
They don't tend to bomb.
You've got to be careful.
That's the Irish.
You've got to be careful with the Scots. They fought on both sides in the English Civil War.
See, he's Polish. He's got the
any,
German thing going down. I've got the Scottish. Screw the bloody English history going down.
Of course.
And you're an Englishman,
I'm
aren't you?
only half.
Oh no, you're
Polish.
Scottish too.
Yeah.
Scott. Yeah,
Yeah, Duncan.
You can tell, I
I'm
can tell by
Duncan.
looking
I'm
at you.
a
that
How
you're
stupid
Scottish.
am I? Duncan.
Yeah.
How Scottish a name can you get?
And Graham, that's my second half.
Yeah.
Half Polish, half Graham. So
Mm.
Polish, Scottish, Irish.
Probably just said that because you know so much about the royal history. I
Alex
kinda
knows a
went,
lot
"Oh,
about a lot of history,
maybe-
though.
maybe."
Hey, I thought you were Russian because of your knowledge about Serbia. Come on.
Knowledge about Serbia. There's not much in Serbia to know about.
Well, it's
Sorry, my geography is not that great.
There's not much there.
Balkan history is so Byzantinely complex. It's it's hardly within the scope of this to try to get into that, and also.
What are you saying about our podcast?
Well, I'm saying your podcast is magnificent, and I wouldn't
That's
want it to. I wouldn't want it to fall into the trap of
Good job.
of ensnaring enthusiasts from any of the multitudinous sides in
I see.
in Balkan politics.
Oh, yeah, that's messy.
People tend to be quite strong in their feelings on that sort of stuff, and I don't think that needs to come here.
Sure.
Yeah, the Balkans is pretty crazy place, man.
So
They
what,
got
what
all
region
sorts of
does
things going on down
Balkans
there.
encompass? That word, what does that actually encompass? Balkans? Is
Oh,
it
Russia,
Yugoslavia.
formerly Yugoslavia. So
Yeah, the former
Bosnia and
Yugoslav republics,
parts of Czech.
basically what you find between Austria and Greece.
Okay.
That broadly
Croats.
speaking is the Balkans.
Mhm.
So
Sure. All right.
so Serbs, Bosnians, Croatians, Herzegovinians, Albanians, all that.
Were
sort
they
of
all part of
Macedonians.
the
Macedonians,
USSR?
yeah.
Sorry?
Were they all ensnared by the USSR?
Well, that's kind of a funny thing because
I don't think all of them were they?
there was a time under Marshal Tito where Yugoslavia became a unified thing, but that wasn't something that that could or would last beyond his leadership and strength of personality.
Mm.
And people there have long memories.
They do indeed.
So,
Blood
Oh, absolutely.
so, like I say, it's kind of beyond the scope of what we're doing here to try to explore all of that.
Oh, it's not even our ethnicity, so that'd be tricky. talking about somebody else's things. I can talk about Scotland and England. That's fine because that's my ethnicity, and you do the German Polish Polish thing as well. You talk about your own family history.
True story.
Yeah.
Well,
It's hard to speak of somebody else's.
Well, he's my oldest mate, Michael. He's Cossack. That's his heritage, and so he knows so much about all this sort of.
The Cossacks
not so much the Balkan then, but
Cossacks
Russian
are very
history.
well known as
Yeah,
valiant as well.
Fucking warrior. They're all fucking warriors, man. So his entire family, they're fucking warriors, man. So he's literally in the military. His brothers are gridiron players, and they're just fucking tough as nails, man.
Who is he again? I missed.
Michael, his name is. He's my oldest mate.
Oh, okay, from a school.
Yeah, from school.
Right,
We've been mates since the first day of grade 1.
Oh wow! So
Yeah.
a Polski and a Rusky got together and
That's
became
it.
mates.
Yep.
That's
long-standing.
how sweet
Yeah,
is
we were
that?
the only
Who would
two
have
kids.
thought?
We were the only 2 kids in grade 1 that weren't crying on the first day.
Who would have
That's how we
thought?
got to know each other.
That is
I
so
was just
sweet.
standing there, arms crossed, and he's come over next to me, leaned on the wall, and we just started talking. And it's been a love affair since then. So
So you don't like the Germans, but the Russians are okay.
Michael's okay.
Michael's okay
Michael's okay.
because they both did a
That's
number
it.
on Poland.
That's it.
Both of them.
Yeah. My grandmother used to refer to him as, that poor Ukrainian boy.
Poor Ukrainian boy.
Mm.
It's
But
actually
yes,
quite good.
the
Poland's
Germans
doing
and
well
the
these
Russians
days.
have been using Poland for a highway for centuries.
Oh.
So-
Actually, Poland's one of the bright lights in
so
Europe
did
at
the
moment.
Mongols. The Mongols use Poland as a highway as well. You sit,
Yeah.
sit my uncle down, and like he's quite pale skinned, but his bone structure and everything, he looks quite Chinese. Even.
Asiatic.
He's
Okay.
got, like real high cheekbones, and yeah, Asiatic is the word. So it's a bit of Poland's a bit like Australia, a bit of a mongrel race, really, because people have been stomping all over it for millennia.
Yep. Started off kind of Celt.
Yep.
Germans,
that's-
Russians.
As
blah,
far
blah,
as
blah.
I know, it's difficult to trace Polish genealogy, but as far as I know, my surname is a Celtic. It's a Polish,
Yeah,
Polandized version. Sorry, Polandized version of like
John Cleese.
John Cleese.
Yeah.
The McClishes are in Poland as well.
Yeah.
So, and I know that a lot of those Celtic tribes moved over into Poland. So it makes sense to me that that's where it would have come from, rather than the other way round. Than the Polish moving into Scotland and becoming the McClishes, or into Pomeland and becoming the Cleeses.
Yes, you definitely have a lot of Celt
Makes
in
more
you, so
sense.
it's very believable.
Yep.
Crazy.
But as I said, it's
That's
only
what we are.
speculation because so much has been destroyed over the time that people have just ripped Poland to pieces. So it's impossible even to find the roots of my surname. On my mother's side, the Graham clan, that's easy as fuck because they're still around. They've got a proud heritage.
Yeah.
The
Poland
Grahams,
got-
you know,
yeah.
the Graham tartan and all of that sort of shit.
That's the other thing about war. Shit gets lost.
Yes.
It's fine to.
That's it.
Makes it hard to research. Things get lost and damaged, stolen.
Yeah.
Bureaucratic documents
Purposefully
included.
destroyed as well. Like razing, R-A-Z,
Yeah.
razing, purposefully destroying things.
Yeah, Poland.
And then
was a
even you
mess.
think about in Greece, the Parthenon, when is that what they call it? The Acropolis, isn't it? The Acropolis was used as a munitions
Acropolis
storage.
is a term that refers to sort of a raised area in any city that's used as a military stronghold. The Parthenon
Is the building.
Was the
is
building?
the thing with the pillars and
That's right.
that
okay,
stuff.
and is that the one that the French used as a munitions storage? Is that how the story goes?
Um,
Because you know how it's the Parthenon in Athens. Then how it's been.
hello,
destroyed.
Internet. We're about to annoy you. The
Hope you like history.
the Elgar.
I love it.
The
I love it.
Elgar marbles were taken by Lord Elgar during the 19th century.
Lord Elgar. Who's Lord Elgar?
Someone that Byron likes to shit all over.
Okay.
But Byron thought that Napoleon was the best thing since sliced bread, so we'll take his opinion with due caution.
All right.
So during one of several conflicts between the Greeks and the Turks, the Greeks were smashing up everything in the Parthenon on the Acropolis to break down for lime, and Lord Elgar took these important historical artifacts and brought them back to Britain. Byron, being the young, socially conscious fellow that he was, thought this was a terrible crime, even though Elgar had saved these archaeologically important things from destruction, and they're still in the British Museum, as far as I know.
What are these things?
What
are these important things that were taken?
The Elgar marbles, big round stone sculptures that the ancient Greeks made, and the Greeks there.
Balls.
We're going to
important balls. Important balls.
We're going to hear enough balls in the comments section after this, so don't get ahead of yourself.
Big important balls. Yep. Keep going.
Yep. So the Italian, the Greeks rather, were.
I'm just amused. That's all. The theft of big important balls.
Yeah. They were taken away and put somewhere where they'd be preserved, rather than just smashed up, thrown on a fire, and made lime out of. So,
okay. And so you said it was the Greeks that were destroying it themselves.
Yeah.
Is that what we said? Yeah. And so the English have come in and taken it back to the museum.
Yeah.
And said, don't ruin it. We'll keep some of it.
Yeah. Byron comes along afterwards, and like I say, he was a big Napoleon fanboy, and Byron's someone we could talk about for a long
Alex?
time. He's a horrible person. But he shat all over Elgar and thought that they should have been left there. And a lot of Greeks think that they should be still there as well. And I'm of two minds. Maybe it'd be nice to give them back if they promised to look after them. But at the time, a lot of the contents of the Parthenon were being ruined, and that was just a matter of military necessity at the time.
Mm-hmm. I heard that a cannon went off inside it, or a gun was fired inside it, and part of it collapsed as well. Or
that's the whole point of having an Acropolis, is having a militarily significant place,
the highest point.
So, if in any military conflict, that's going to be something that happens.
For the flag, pop the flag on top. Need a high spot. But you just converted me to radical feminism. Congratulations, Alex.
Oh, how did I manage that?
Bunch of blokes go to war over two big balls. Pretty stupid.
Was that all it took?
Yeah, he's pretty simple conversion there. Wow.
I'm going to start eating cheese. And
don't you eat cheese already?
Yes, I've already have eaten cheese.
Yeah, but he's going to smash the patriarchy now.
Yeah.
You're going to you're going to object to an election on the other side of the planet, wear a hat that looks like a vagina, and scream helplessly at the sky. Because as we know,
I don't know. My mind has just gone. Yuck. Two
I
big
thought you liked
balls.
history.
Let's go.
Now
and
you're
fight
stuck
for
on testicles.
2 big fucking balls.
I mean balls.
Yep.
Concrete balls.
Crazy. Us people.
Hey, isn't it funny that, like, you look at the anatomy of those Greek statues, because they've got massive balls, man. These tiny little peckers and gigantic balls on those statues. Do you think that's what Greeks actually look like? Or was that just a
big
statement?
balls?
Big balls, tiny cock, and a hat that looks like a vagina.
Well, the hat that looks like a vagina comes later, but this guy's going to be doing some research.
Hey, we
for
should
us.
go around castrating all of those Greek statues. Take their balls.
You get variations with every.
Yes,
human.
I don't remember the particular winner of the Ig Nobel Prize for studying this, but the ancient Greeks had some odd beliefs concerning testicles, and that they somehow had a direct connection to the vocal cords, so that when they start to lower, it stretches out the vocal cords and makes the voice deeper.
Which, of course, is more powerful. It's more powerful to have a deeper voice than a higher voice. So,
yes,
showing that these are very
and
powerful men.
because
Is this a theory?
uh,
Because it's all about this here, the Adam's apple.
well,
That's
it's
where
like
your
I
voice comes
say,
from. It doesn't come from down here. It comes from here.
Well, the ancient Greeks disagree with
the ancient
The
Greeks
papal
have theory.
castrati kind of fly in the face of that too.
I sing from my
suppose so.
balls because they're big. Big, big balls. Stay close to me.
Stay far from me.
Don't ever let them go.
Stay
Big,
far
big.
from me, but not too far.
Yeah.
Okay, just a little ditty. In the Pines. Good old fashioned one.
By Lead Belly.
My girl, don't lie to me. Tell me, where did you sleep last night? In the pines where the sun never shines. I'll shiver whole night through. My girl, where will you go? I'm going where the cold wind blows. In the pines where the sun never shines. I'll shiver the whole night through. Her husband was a hard-working man, was killed about 1.5 miles from here. His head was found in a driving wheel, but his body never was found. My girl, don't lie to me. Tell me, where did you sleep last night? In the pines where the sun never shines. I'll shiver the whole night through. my girl, where will you go? I'm going where the cold wind blows. In the pines where the sun never shines, I'll shiver whole night through. Lovely. Question time, Alex.
Yeah.
Favourite movies? Top 5.
Oh, that's a little bit hard to discern. If you could break it down by genre.
By genre?
Mm.
Oh, okay.
Top 5 genres.
Well, drama's probably my favourite, so drama.
That's a good question because, and in my rather short preparation for all of this, I was thinking about the arts in general, and one of the things that I noticed was that, as both of you probably know, I don't really watch television, but
Who does?
I don't say that in the sense that most people self-righteously say, I don't watch TV. I don't watch TV. Well, I feel sorry for those people because they've probably missed out on what was the greatest art movement of the early 21st century.
Yeah, but that's more a recent thing. People just watch internet now.
Well, yes,
You're
but
kind of still watching TV, but
There are,
you're not.
like, Foxtel still exists, and HBO and these sorts of things. And HBO, there's actually
And it
like
gets
some
uploaded.
really good TV shows that have come through the HBO thing. Like there's Oz, Sopranos. Then you go to Game of Thrones more recently in terms of popularity.
Yeah, I'm not your guy for Game of Thrones.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm asking you to be. I watched all of them, and I was disappointed.
You're disappointed? People rave about that show.
I've
never watched it, but
they do, and if you disparage it, they rave at you.
Yeah, they tell you why there's something
Never
wrong
watched
with
it.
you.
Not interested either.
Yeah, well, that was a few years back when
The Wire. The Wire is everything. Have you guys watched The Wire?
The Wire's very good.
But anyway, sorry.
Yeah,
Interrupt.
I stuck my head over the parapet on the internet to say that I didn't much like the look of Game of Thrones when
Dragons and shit.
well
And zombies, Rob. You would have loved it.
Dragons and
Dragons and zombies. That's right up your alley.
When the
Rob loves fantasy. It's actually his favourite genre.
When the Red Wedding was the big
wild.
thing, and had just come out, and there was a whole dearth of reaction videos to that sort of thing. I thought, okay, well, this is a show people are talking about. Let's take a look at it. And I thought to myself, okay, well, this is the show where pregnant women get stabbed in the gut. I'll let you folks
Tasty.
enjoy yourselves. And in the course of preparing my objections for this, I probably spent a good few hours looking at Game of Thrones and formulating my opinion on what it might be. The overwhelming response from the internet was how dare you have an opinion on a program that you haven't that you haven't watched an episode of.
It's funny how people just assume that. That if you had watched it, you would be a fan. But you just said you had watched it.
Well, I'd watched that snippet of it, and I don't think how can I put this? I don't think I need to ingest so much as an ounce of human feces to know that it probably doesn't taste very good. So the
you gotta try human feces.
Give it a go
tonight.
Yeah, silly old me. I'm such a presumptuous bastard where these things are concerned. But between then and now, in my former job working in transitional housing, I have actually seen most of season 3. So no one can say that I haven't seen it now. And it's just shitty people doing shitty things to each other. It's rather like the Hitler's Bodyguard documentary series, where it follows the intrigues of people like Heinrich Himmler and Bruno Gescher, who are both complete assholes in their own way. Heinrich Himmler was head of the SS. Bruno Gescher was a drunken street brawler that had been there since the Nazi Party's early days. And yeah, they're all kind of pricks, and they're all doing shitty things to each other. So yes, I think Game of Thrones is a giant pile of shit. But with that out of the way, and we don't need to get back to it.
Leave your comments in the comments section.
Yeah, Game of Thrones fans, do your worst. Do your worst. Turn up at my house with a sword. Fuck you.
I can't criticise. I haven't watched a single drop.
That's a good way to keep it as someone who is occupationally obliged, not just to watch it, but not talk shit about it while doing so. It's terrible. But
10 million people just shit themselves.
Good.
There's always something that comes up on the podcast where 10 million people just shit themselves. It's all right, Alex. Seems to be a running thing.
Well, it's the way it goes. But in that period of the sort of late 90s to early 2000s, people who self-righteously state, "I don't watch TV. I don't watch TV." I think, well, geez, I'm sorry to hear that. You've probably missed out on one of the greatest art movements of the early 21st century,
Which is
TV. Yes, television.
People claim that this is the golden age of television, like the period that you're talking about. A lot of...
Well, nothing was competing with it. Now the internet
that's
competes
true.
with it.
So there was no YouTubes. I mean, there was, but it wasn't widespread. Most people
I
didn't
watch
have a
TV,
connection.
but
And
not
the,
on a
the amount that you could
traditional
upload to
TV.
YouTube
That's
was
right, minimal.
was much more limited. I mean, we couldn't do this
No.
in that sort of time frame.
Exactly. 10 million computers would have shit themselves if we tried.
All right, different question then, Alex.
Yeah.
Favorite poem? Can you recite one? Is that possible?
There's lots of very good poems, but
None off by heart.
not in their entirety.
Okay.
The Raven's very good. I could probably get through most of that, but
Tell us
that causes that causes morbidly obese goth chicks to propose marriage on the spot, and we don't really need any of that now. So,
Can you give us a few lines to get a gist of what it is? A sample?
well, he's got a laptop; he can do the whole thing.
You can.
Once
People
upon
are
a
giving away their memories these days. Google.
I've heard an interesting theory that human beings are already cyborgs. We just keep the phones in the pocket. It's not in our heads, but it's all.
Well, we've already established that it's ruined trivia nights,
Exactly.
so human society can't be too far behind.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
I'll recite mine. This be the verse by Philip Larkin. It's not from memory, because I am a cyborg. They fuck you up, your mum and dad. They may not mean to, but they do. They fill you with the faults they had and add some extra, just for you. But they were fucked up in their turn by fools in old-style hats and coats, who half the time was soppy stern and half at one another's throats. Man hands on misery to man. It deepens like a coastal shelf. Get out as early as you can and don't have any kids yourself. By Philip Larkin.
It's one of the most romantic poems I've ever heard.
Sure is. I don't get any girls throwing themselves at my feet with a poem like that.
Beautiful.
Good.
Yeah. I've
Beautifully
already bred.
beautiful. I was thinking something more along the lines of Dorothy McKellar or something. You know, I love a sunburnt country, a land of sweeping plains.
You're talking to a man who lived in Gunnedah for many years. There's actually a statue of her there.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, is that where she was born?
I don't know about born, but she must have spent some time there.
Had a couple of beers there.
Yeah, well, what else is there to do there?
Ice.
Build a statue. She had
These
some beers
days,
at
I
our pub.
presume so.
More than likely.
What else? What else can I ask you?
Oh,
You're in the millionaire's hot seat right now, Alex.
the millionaire's hot seat, which
Maybe we should do a trivia thing. Ask each other a trivia question.
that's good as long as people aren't allowed to use their smartphones.
Or laptops.
Yes.
Quiz time on Scatology. Starting with Alex Duncan.
Oh, you want me to ask?
Yeah, throw a question out there. See if one of us can answer it.
Who is considered the father of modern warfare?
Gandalf.
Modern warfare.
Modern, correct?
That would be
Robert Louis Stevenson.
that would be General.
No.
Oh,
MacArthur.
yeah, MacArthur. That's
Going
who
back,
I'd pick. Yeah.
going back a long ways further than that. No.
Oh well, you're
All right.
probably talking Napoleon then.
Further still, related question: what was the last major religious war in Europe?
the last major religious war in Europe? Albania?
No. The two questions are related, quite closely so.
You're talking Northern Ireland?
Once again, not even close.
Religious war. I've got Albania stuck in my mind.
Okay, clue. It's it's distinct from the 100 Years' War, that the length of the war and the name of the war actually...
10 Days War?
No. Early 17th century.
It's distinct from the 100 Years' War.
Are you talking about the British Isles?
In that it actually, its name actually conforms to how long it took.
I see. So I was on the right track.
You
But
were.
it wasn't exactly a religious war in Europe, the 10 Days War.
No. But
3-hour skirmish.
no,
3 hours skirmish.
All right, we're not getting anywhere here.
I don't have it.
Okay.
I would have said Albania. That was my answer.
Swedish King Gustavus Adolphus is remembered as the father of modern warfare.
Mm.
And the
Really?
30 Years' War
30 Years' War.
from 1618 to 1648
Ding, 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 ding.
is actually 30 years.
There you go.
Who were the Swedes fighting?
Well,
Finland? Or the Russians? Or who?
well,
What was the religions?
Cliff Notes version, the war,
Is this a Protestant Catholic thing?
yeah,
Oh,
Cliff
right,
Notes
okay.
version, it falls into 4 distinct phases: Bohemian, Danish, Swedish, and French. In the first 2 of those, it's it's rather a localized thing and primarily religious. In the latter 2, it's much broader and far less religious in its tone.
Who won, the Protestants or the Catholics?
Well, I'm afraid nobody really won as such.
Just a lot of crosses.
The Dutch did reasonably well out of it in that they got a lot of their independence from Spain.
Ah, the Spanish, right? Yeah.
Well, yeah, for the Dutch it was
running around the place.
For the Dutch it was the 80 Years' War.
One of our previous guests talked about how there was even a war in New Orleans with the Spanish versus the French, I think it was.
Yeah.
So the Spanish were running around all around the joint,
Yeah,
doing their thing.
They had a hand in discovering the continent of Australia. The great south land of the Holy Spirit was it was the Spanish that coined that when they first saw Australia. Australis, Terra Australis.
No, I think you're thinking the Dutch and the English. I don't think the Spanish came.
You might be thinking of Mendonça, Portuguese.
Portuguese could be it, actually.
Yeah. Now, why is this?
Why is what?
Why do Spanish and Portuguese explorers tend to go different directions? Treaty of Tordesillas.
Okay. Treaty of Tordesillas. I don't know much.
Pope Alexander VI.
My history is nowhere near as good as yours, man.
Pope Alexander VI. Cesare Borgia.
Oh,
Yes.
I've heard of those.
The Borgias.
Yeah,
They're
right.
controversial.
So
The Prince.
Treaty of
Machiavelli's
Tordesillas.
Prince. The Prince is based on one of his
he was writing to Lorenzo de Medici.
De Medici.
So
Same cunts, different surnames.
basically. Yeah. The Treaty of Tordesillas is where Pope Alexander VI draws a line around the world and says this half belongs to Spain, this half belongs to Portugal, and no one else gives enough of a shit about me to participate. So that's why in Brazil they speak Portuguese. For the rest of Latin and Central America,
Spanish.
they don't.
Yeah, bastardization of, or not a bastardization, a territorial version of Spanish.
Yeah, so you've got
Spic.
So don't say that on
Say what I
YouTube.
What? Don't say what?
Spic.
Is that the derogatory term for Spanish?
It's like calling. It's like using the word Polack for like the Spanish slur. Polack is a slur against Polish,
That's meant to be derogatory.
and Spic is
Polack.
yeah, yeah, or Dago. It's just a derogatory word.
What about Polski? Is
That's
that
just
derogatory?
It's just using the language.
What's correct then? What do Polish call themselves?
You know,
Polski?
Polish, Australian Polish
don't
call
say
themselves
Polish.
Polish. I don't know.
It's
I
weird.
don't actually speak Polish, man.
English people would say
I know
ish.
Do Widzenia. That's about it.
Do widzenia.
Baba Yaga. That's Old Witch. Baba Yaga. And that's about the extent of my Polish knowledge.
Baba Yaga, old witch.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's the same. That's actually the same.
That's
in
one
Russian.
of the phrases that sticks in your mind.
Mm.
Who was your old witch?
My grandmother.
So you said Baba Yaga to your grandmother.
No, she's the one that taught me what it means.
So your grandmother
Yeah, she was
taught you.
teaching us insults. Yeah.
So your grandmother was basically.
What's the point of being bilingual if you can't learn insults?
Your grandmother basically was asking you to insult her.
Basically.
Baba Yaga. Oh, I love your grandma. That's
It's
cool.
good quality.
Just call me Baba Yaga, old witch. There's your Polish lesson.
To be fair, she was probably
Me
drunk
son.
at the time.
Hey?
To be fair, she was probably drunk at the time, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, funny story. My dad had when he was working for the Queensland Public Service, they had a day where you had to come along as like your culture of heritage and bring. So
Your
for him,
skirt?
bring some Polish food, and so he wanted to bring along a Polish drink.
You didn't bring
No,
your
he-
Polish skirt?
I don't know. I doubt it, actually. He probably wore bobby socks or something crazy. But he asked Grandma what, babcia, what a non-alcoholic Polish drink. And she's just like, vodka? And he's like, no, Mum. Non-alcoholic
No alcohol.
Polish beverage.
Vodka?
Vodka. What are you talking about? That's what we drink.
Some
Well,
vodka
that's
and
fair
biscuits?
enough. Oh, it's fair enough. I mean,
Well, for Scottish.
beer
it's
was
Scotch.
beer was apparently the Russian solution to their growing alcoholism problem. They
Soft drink.
Yeah,
Beer is a soft drink.
They
Yeah.
considered it a soft drink.
That's
You
right.
Get it in petrol stations. It's just sitting there between the orange soda and the mineral water.
Yeah, Robbie and I used to work with a guy. His name was Ivan, and he went and visited Russia. He went on a 3-month holiday of Russia, and he said all the rumors that you hear are true about the drunkenness in Russia. It's just like everyone there. It's just drunk all the time. So he was relaying a story about a guy that had gone into their equivalent of Bunnings, and him trying to get this huge plank of wood into his car just a normal sedan, trying to put it in through the back window and just like falling backwards and bang and smashing windows just because he was too pissed. And thought it was a great idea. Even the idea of putting the plank of wood in your goddamn car is nonsense because it's just going to be hanging out the side of your window. But he didn't have the forethought to think about that. It's nonsense. Just bang, bang, trying to put it in and just ends up driving off when he finally gets it in there.
That's the way she
He's
goes.
like, and he even went to he got sick while he was over there, and he went to a doctor, and the doctor was just like, just have some vodka.
Prescribed.
Just vodka will kill it. Don't worry about it. Just have some vodka.
The answer is vodka.
This Australian disease. We don't get this in Russia. It's cold all the time here. If
Well,
we
the
start
Scottish are the
sniffling-
same. Oh, you got a toothache, have you? Just get some scotch or some whiskey.
Yeah, that's right.
Rip it out.
Kids can't sleep. Bit of brandy, bit of scotch.
Some pliers.
Stir it in with some milk. Bob's your uncle.
Rip it out.
Yeah.
You'll be right.
Did you come from a drinking family? I didn't. My family, my immediate family,
Immediate family,
religious
no.
problems. They did not
and
drink.
on the paternal side, extended family, not really into the drinking thing at all.
Well, you had Baptist roots, eh?
That's true.
Baptists.
quite
Yeah,
anti.
okay.
They're
Yeah, I had
anti as well.
Pentecostal roots. Quite
Presbyterians aren't anti. My
No,
granny used to feed me Tia Maria on ice cream as a kid.
That's right.
I didn't even know it was alcoholic until I was 18. I
Yeah.
became 18, went into the bottle shop. Yeah, I can buy some piss. And there's Tia Maria on the shelf. I'm like,
Thought it was an ice
shit,
cream.
that was my ice cream topping. One way to put the kids to bed in Scotland. Tia Maria.
So on both my parents' side of the family, there was alcoholism. And so it was a personal and religious choice for my parents to just not have alcohol in the house. So what that actually means is that at Christmas, when where we go visit the extended family, and they all drink. So for me, Christmas is totally associated with memories of the smell of alcohol. So that's the thing for me is Christmas smells like booze.
Yeah.
So, and that's, I mean, it was always at Christmas. That's the first time I drank.
Oh, and there's booze
You
and
know,
everything
stealing beers and wine from my cousins and my grandparents' fridges and that sort of shit.
too. Even the cake usually has tons of it in there. Although it gets cooked out technically. The alcohol as such evaporates very quickly.
Oh, not all of it, but yeah.
Not all of it, most of it.
Not all of it. I mean, you think of a decent fruitcake, you can still taste the booze. Same with rum balls, man. But anyway, Alex,
Never liked those.
your parents didn't drink either? No.
Baptist.
Yeah. And so was your father's side Baptist as well?
Yeah,
Was that the
they
history?
were all quite heavily into that. On my mother's side, they were healthy drinkers. My mother was something of an anomaly when she got together with my father. So they went their separate ways, but not until I was in my early 20s. So it's not a broken home situation. It's just that my mother's become a Quaker and embraced environmentalism and all of that sort of thing.
What, an actual
What led
Quaker?
her to become a Quaker? That's
An actual
that's
Quaker?
quite unusual.
Or just Quaker philosophy? What's the difference?
Well, I can't be entirely sure.
Not sure. Okay.
But she seems to like the lack of hierarchy and
They're like kibbutz, yeah.
well, yes. I mean, like any group that rejects hierarchy, sooner or later, a man with a pronounced brow ridge and a long ring finger will start telling people what's what. But for the time being, she seems to like it. So,
okay. How long has she been involved?
Like I say, I couldn't say exactly, but it'd be north of a decade by now.
Wow. Well, there must be a lot that she likes about it then.
Well, like I say, the religious aspect seems to be more on the environmentalism side. And it's honestly not hard to see how religious environmentalism is, because it seems to take the usual tropes of Judeo-Christian religion and just transpose them to a different area. So instead of God, we have Mother Nature.
You mean pagan?
Well, that goes back beyond the spread of Christianity, because the idea of Mother Nature in paganism is it's religious for sure, but not necessarily Judeo-Christian.
I mean in a more modern sense, in that science gives us all the answers, and if you take your answers from a man in a white coat, then you're smart. If you take your answers from a man in a white collar, you're a fucking idiot.
Whack that up there as a reference, the Hawthorne effect.
The Hawthorne effect.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means. Can you explain?
What Alex kind of said. People would behave differently around someone wearing a white lab coat. It was like a psych study.
You've said something like white coat fever or something. You've told me something in the past.
Well,
maybe even white coat bias, you might have called it. I'm not sure.
People respond to cues.
Hawthorne effect.
In terms of the scientific cue, if you put a lab coat on,
what's that?
You're more likely. You've also got the Milgram experiment too.
Milgram experiment.
That's another one. There's a few of them. There's a few of them about obedience and authority and lab coats.
Milgram experiment. Can you explain the Milgram experiment, just in case people don't know?
For those who don't know, the Milgram experiment was an experiment carried out in, I believe it was the 60s or thereabouts.
Yeah, it was black and white film. Yep, so it would have been the 60s.
Yeah. And the idea was that you would get undergraduate participants to
Stanford University
to administer electric shocks to people for getting things wrong throughout a series of questions.
Please continue the experiment.
And they thought that maybe a small percentage of people will go all the way with this.
Hypothesis.
And yes, there was an increasing gradient of electric shock. The voices of the alleged participant being relayed to them in sound, but a lab-coated technician there to assure them that
please continue.
This is all in the name of science. Please
continue.
Continue the experiment.
So every shock is slightly worse than the last, right? Or exponentially worse.
And the last, actually the last shock on the meter had XX, like, the death shock.
Yes, this is...
And most of them went all the way to the end. giving
Yes,
a potentially.
they thought only a few percentage would actually go that far, but
Please continue the
Please
experiment.
continue the
the
experiment.
weight of the
The
experiment.
Hawthorne effect. Is that what you call
Hawthorne's different. That was
But
just
this
done in
is- it-
factories and stuff,
no,
where
but you're
to
saying
increase
the-
production of people, they
the
just
white
had someone
coat-
there with
the
a
white
white coat.
coat-
They thought they were being watched.
The white
so
coat experimenter
They worked
says
harder.
to. So now,
Mm.
were they really experimenting on people? Were there people actually getting electric shocks?
No, actors.
No, they were
Actors.
actors. It
Yeah.
was the
So the test subject was actually the person pushing the button,
That's
Yeah.
right.
who would
Correct.
hear a
That's correct.
scream,
Yep.
hear a yelp,
Yep.
and then hear a scream, then hear someone
Yep.
fucking die,
Please
or
continue.
someone close to death,
Mm-hmm.
and then they say,
Mhm.
"Please continue the experiment," and they still push the death button because the dude in the white coat
says
says, "Please
That's what
continue.
it-
This
yep.
is what we're doing. Please continue the experiment."
Yep. You're not allowed to do experiments like that anymore, thankfully, but that's
Yeah.
the way it went.
Would definitely be considered unethical these
Very
Oh
days.
yes,
unethical.
I mean
So-
back in our day, as was said earlier, we met at Griffith Uni School of Psychology in the early 2000s, and one thing that I recall quite distinctly was in those early 2000s days that so many of the people that were teaching us were absolutely obsessed with Big Brother, the television show.
Oh, really?
Speaking of unethical experiments,
Exactement.
Mm.
Exactement.
Oh, so they were loving it.
Yes,
Ah, right.
because if they had wanted to do such things in the name
In
of
uni, yeah.
science and further understanding the human condition, it would have
Yeah, that would pass.
never passed muster
Yeah, no.
in the ethical requirements.
Yeah, no, that's
But
right.
if it was just these knuckleheads who had signed up to
Get some money.
get some money and perhaps some fame from it, then all of a sudden it was okay.
yeah.
Yep, the old money talks and the bullshit walks. Sign
you mean
the
this will get
form.
my face on TV?
Sign the waiver.
Awesome.
All good.
Yeah, and like I say, they were obsessed with it because
It's really interesting.
they were learning. They were able to observe this stuff without going through any of the ethical
Of course.
ethical
They could
stuff.
observe the experiment
Yes.
and theorize on the experiment without performing the experiment.
Exactly.
I'll probably get in trouble here, but another name for voyeur is researcher psychologist.
Now,
You heard it first, folks.
now was a
Right here on
truer word
Scatology.
spoken.
Talking shit.
That's a legitimization of voyeur.
And now was a truer word spoken.
So, top 5 dramas. Or
Oh,
top
yeah,
5.
that never happened.
What's your favourite genre of film? If you were going to watch a film,
That's
what
a
would you
good
watch?
question. Yeah.
I honestly couldn't tell you. As I say, I think film has been surpassed as the medium for serious storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
By what?
Television. Was, and then
Television,
YouTube's
we covered
even.
that a little while back.
Television doesn't even exist anymore.
Well, I haven't watched television for a long time.
You mean
like
web,
American
web
Horror Story?
feeds? Web feeds. Internet.
Do you like American Horror Story?
I
Do you get
liked
into
some
horror
of
at all?
them.
Yeah.
Some of them were very good.
The Shining.
Well, The Shining is an excellent film, and it's not a
The
bad
Hills
book
Have
either.
Eyes. That is a great film.
Some great films have been made, but as I say, television has surpassed it as the medium for serious storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
The more prominent entries there would be The Sopranos. I think is
top notch.
Where that really started to take off, and Breaking Bad probably reached its zenith, but there's a lot of honourable mentions in there.
True story.
Things like The Wire, and
brilliant.
Absolutely
brilliant.
If you like Game of Thrones, you're an idiot. Thank you.
If you don't like The Wire, you're an idiot. The Wire is everything.
I think I need to watch The Wire. I'm an idiot.
It wouldn't hurt you, and it'll probably
definitely need to watch it.
It'll probably teach you more about Baltimore than the news will. So
yeah, great acting, great storytelling, man,
definitely
and
need
great
to watch
situations. It's fucking brilliant.
Especially with you guys' recommendations.
Speaking of Breaking Bad, did you watch any of Better Call Saul?
I haven't seen very much of it.
I really enjoyed that. I saw like a few seasons. I don't know what they're up to now, maybe 4 or 5. I'm not sure, but I really enjoyed it. Like, I think he's a great character.
Yes, yes,
and it's about the demise, how he came to be the lawyer that Bryan Cranston's character goes to. So it's about his journey to becoming that crooked piece of shit lawyer.
Yeah.
Because he was a crooked piece of shit to begin with, right? And that's the essence of Better Call Saul. So, Robbie Jobbie, do you know anything about Breaking Bad at all?
No,
It's basically a tragedy. So it's the demise of this character who he's a chemistry teacher, gets diagnosed with terminal cancer, and says, "Fuck it, I'm gonna cook the best crystal meth the world's ever seen."
Right.
And I've just got to find a guy to help me sell it. And so it's the two of them becoming like the fucking top dogs in, where's it set again?
It's in
Albuquerque?
New Mexico.
New Mexico.
Yes.
So his motivation is just to earn as much money as quick as bloody possible before he dies and have a party.
Well, not so much have a party, but
leave money for his family. And
okay. So, right.
Yeah. And then he becomes a power junkie in the process as well. And so
wow.
Like
very intriguing.
Taking on the cartels and stuff like that as well. So it's really...
it sounds like it's got some twists.
Yes, man. It's
it
a
does.
really good story.
And it's, if I may venture, it's something of a morality tale that
tragedy.
In that you get this this central character who is presented with this moral conundrum, as in, I'm near the end of my life. What can I do for my family? How far am I prepared to go to provide for them? And throughout,
and to leave a legacy as well.
Yes, and throughout the seasons, it shows his progress into what would be a previously unthinkable.
That's it. That's it. For the guy that starts in episode 1, if he had thought that he'd become the guy that he finishes up as, he wouldn't even be able to comprehend himself.
Yeah,
being that
tragedy's a
person.
great genre. It really is. Like Groundhog Day, that's a great one for that. That's a great tragedy.
Yeah, comic tragedy.
Yeah.
It's a good twist on the comic tragedy as well, because like your
'Cause he
traditional
starts out the
traditional Greek tragedy, it's like Aristotle set out all of these rules for like how a tragedy should run for it to be called a tragedy. It's got to all be set in the same place. It's got to all be in the course of 2 or 3 days, and it's got to be a big man falling from grace. And Groundhog Day totally puts a twist on that, because
you've got the
it all happens
psychology
in,
there too.
It all happens in the one day, but it's like
But
apparently
he's a
in
narcissist
apparently
and ends up getting
totally,
pegged down.
Totally,
Yeah.
absolutely, just bang, 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 bang. If I'm not the best, I'm going to kill myself.
Yeah. That's
You know,
great
that sort of
tragedy.
shit. Yeah, it's really good. And then him rebuilding himself, which is where it's like a common tragedy.
Oh, it's such a great
know,
film. It's
Yeah,
one of my
it's
favorite.
got a happy
tragedies,
ending,
I think.
whereas the traditional tragedy does not have a happy ending. And Groundhog Day does have a happy ending. If they just left it as, well, he kills himself and that's how he broke the cycle, that would be like a classic tragedy.
That's right.
But
he
I
did
really
wake up
like
the
how
next
they
day, didn't he?
apparently the original script for Groundhog Day, it was more explicit that he lived that one day over and over for about 10,000 years. 10,000 years worth of that single day. Yeah. So that's a good twist on this whole tragedy, Aristotle's rules for tragedy, because it all happens in the one day. This narcissist becomes nothing and then comically.
Oh, in
rebuilds
this film
himself.
as well. It's
No,
one day.
No. I'm saying classic tragedy, and Groundhog Day in that regard is classic tragedy, that it all occurs in this short space of time in this one environment. And it's a narcissist who falls
Well, they
from
kind of
grace.
blend the two, don't they? Because it's an infinite one day.
That's it, exactly. But Breaking Bad, it's not. It's a television show, so they
It's
can't
still a
do
short
all in
period
one
of
day.
time.
You know, it's
A
not Jack
decent-
Bauer in 24 hours. But it is definitely classic tragedy. He falls. A decent teacher becomes a monster,
Wow.
and the rest.
Does
the
he
rest.
die? Oh, probably spoiler alerts here. Does he,
Well, that would
does
be a
he die at
spoiler
the
alert.
end?
I think you should watch it.
It
Okay.
is worth
Watch it.
watching.
We won't spoil
It's
that
definitely
one.
worth watching.
So we'll let the audience decide what they think of that. But as I say, it is worth watching, and it does follow the ancient Greek and Shakespearean
Definitely, man.
structure of the tragedy.
Tragedy, exactly.
I like tragedy. Not the Bee
Well,
Gees
that's
song,
what
though.
brings you here.
Don't give me comments about Bee Gees, please.
Tragedy.
God
Do
love
you
them.
love the Bee Gees?
I don't.
Do you have a night fever? Night fever?
It's
You don't
entirely.
have to show it.
It's entirely unrelated to what we've been discussing, but I suppose I could describe it as
Red
that.
herring. Keep going, please.
No.
Brainless pap.
No.
A crusty old jism-filled tissue.
No, actually, I'm into the no fap thing. I have been for a while, and
So you must have some night visitors.
No, I don't get that either.
So no fap, you mean no wanking.
That's
And
correct.
And by night visitors, you mean no wet dreams. Okay. I'm just trying to
Yeah,
interpret
I don't
this
get
language.
either of them. So,
Is that because the English came and stole your balls?
No, they're still there. It's just they don't seem to be doing anything of particular use.
Right.
No pollinating.
Fuck pollinating. No,
What led you to the no fap thing? That's really interesting to hear.
He was brought up a Baptist.
I was brought up a Pentecostal. I was taught that it was evil.
Well, most people are, but I
We're
suppose.
getting a lot of comments,
I hope so.
Yeah, good.
especially from
Fuck you.
especially from the religious folk.
Anyway.
No, it's just that it's just a matter of scientific fact that that we put a great deal of our energy into reproducing, and if you humans aren't set up for video streaming pornography
You don't have to do
and
that to wank,
constant masturbation and
Constant masturbation.
Well, that's an addiction. I'm
Yeah.
not. I wouldn't say that I'm like that.
Probably
fair
getting an
enough.
infection too.
Anyway,
Fair enough.
well, do you think humans are set up for no masturbation then?
I think for most of human history that humans have probably had more important things on their plate, like surviving and gathering enough nutrients and all of that sort of thing. When the possibility to procreate comes along, then we're prepared to invest those sort of things. But
I can't agree with you that sex has always only been used for procreation.
well, I don't think it is either. But if you're in a position to have non-procreative sex, then you're doing much better than a lot of the world's population has been, and you're probably getting the nutrients and minerals and all of those sort of things that go into ejaculation coming straight back into the system.
As are we now.
Are we?
We're in a position that we can easily access those nutrients. So we're definitely we'd be in the top 10% of the world, even though
probably top 1%
top
in
1%.
Broadly speaking.
Mm.
So I think the question is how much more could be accomplished if
Wanking only takes like 5-10 minutes though.
Yes, but what Alex,
ideally,
Clear the pipes every
ideally, but
what
the
Alex is saying, if you
is
don't mind
Alex
me
saying this?
what's Alex saying? Tell me what
Put-
Alex
put
is
words in
saying.
his
I
mouth.
want to
Put
hear
words
this.
in his
you're
mouth.
saying you're talking about nutrients. So don't fap unless you eat first.
Yeah, get your veggies. Do you eat meat?
I eat quite a bit of meat.
Me too. Get your meat, get your protein, get your vitamin B12,
And then
all of
fap
that sort of
away.
shit, and fap away. But I agree that it's not necessarily a good thing for the human psyche to have porn on tap.
No,
I don't think
I agree with you there. It's not
that's
something that we're set up
Yeah.
to do. And my own experience working in mental health is that
A lot of weird shit out there.
is constantly dealing with young men who have not addressed this issue and are failing to get their lives together, and
And there's a lot of weird shit too.
and none of my former colleagues who for the most part were housewives and the like are in any position to tell them that
Mate, I've worked in a factory. I remember people
Tell
coming
them-
up and going, "Oh, here's a girl sucking her horses. You know what? Check this out." No thanks, buddy. You know what I mean? There's a lot of weird perverted shit out there. Please don't watch horses and bestiality and stuff. I don't understand it. Don't understand it.
Yeah,
if you're into it, leave a comment.
The constant,
If you're into
like and
the
subscribe.
constant video
Leave
streaming.
a comment in the comment section.
But
The
that's out there, man. It's out there.
The constant video streaming of pornography has taken things to an entirely new level, and having dealt with young men who are unable and unmotivated to rectify their own lives, it's a difficult question to broach, but it is an important question to address. Is, do you or do you not think that the fact that you're providing the sensory inputs that make your stupid monkey brain think that you're Genghis Khan, does that or does that not make you perhaps a little bit complacent, where you would otherwise benefit from being not so complacent?
So are you saying that you do better things with your time and put better input into your brain? Or are you saying something else?
Well, I'm saying it's entirely possible to do better things with your time and put better things into your brain. I'm not saying that that's necessarily what's going to happen if you're going to find some other degenerate activity or thing.
That's exactly where my mind's going, Alex, is that I think the problem is less with wanking than with, like, there's a deeper issue there. If you spend all your time wanking, watching Pornhub or whatever, there's something deeper that's at fault, rather than, like, what about your prostate? You know, are you worried about your prostate health? Like, it's kind of important. It's an important thing to...
Yeah.
I think it's an important thing to clear the pipes, to be honest. There's worse ways to
do
to
the
go
pipes
about
not
it than
clear
just
their...
having a wank, right?
Okay, do the pipes not
could
clear
fuck a horse.
themselves?
Just cleared my pipe.
Well done. Do the pipes not clear themselves of their own accord? Because every couple of days, the spermatozoa that are built up in where they usually reside, they just expel themselves through ordinary urinary activity.
I don't think they expel themselves in my experience, man. I just know how.
So why aren't mine the size of fucking tennis balls by now?
Hornier and hornier
I've had
and
wet
hornier and
dreams.
hornier and hornier. Yeah, I've gone times where I've been anti-fap, right? And I just end up having a dream.
Cream in the pants.
Yeah.
Wake up.
I'd rather go on a tissue than have to clean that shit up at night.
It comes out. Whether you like it or not.
Well, I'm still waiting for that, but...
But I've got a wife, so...
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to really stress there.
And she's quite happy not to have me have wet dreams. That's great.
Yeah.
Actually, I probably shouldn't say that. Sorry, love. But
anyways... We'll edit that bit out.
Oh, maybe not.
Let me know.
Like,
let me know. When it comes time for me to edit this together, let me know if you want that cut.
We don't mind.
You're probably not going to care. You're probably not even going to remember, Bubblehead.
Bugger off. No, it's more we're punks. So
yeah, exactly.
We just ask other people to tell us if they want something cut, because otherwise we'd probably just roast everyone, really.
Especially ourselves.
Ourselves. The benefits of being a punk. Just got no boundaries.
That's how we do what we do.
Mhm.
No boundaries.
Oh,
Oh, some boundaries, of course, but, I don't know. Whatever. But anything, we've gone 2 hours now. Anything you wanted to... You've got two 50-minute chunks there.
Yeah, cool.
oh,
Anything you
well,
wanted to plug?
no, I don't. I don't really make any money off anything online. I'd prepared some notes on some stuff that we haven't covered.
What have you
but,
prepared notes on? I'd love to talk
Tell
about
us
it.
your-
I'd love to
tell
talk
us your
about what
stuff.
you wanted to talk about.
It's not
Tell
that
me
I
something.
wanted to talk about. It's just that I was terrified of looking like a douchebag if I hadn't.
Impossible.
You've got to do
it-
your prepared stuff.
Absolutely.
No. Look, it was just more looking at philosophers and / philosophies and that sort of thing. And all it does is give us some more stuff to cover next time.
Next time.
True.
So,
Absolutely.
Have a philosophy debate.
Yeah.
So
Nietzsche
I've
all those dudes.
like I say, I've immensely enjoyed being just having the three of us together again after all these years is more than worthwhile for me, and I hope that we can do this again in the not too distant, and I have no doubt that we will have far more material by then as well. So I thank you both for inviting me on today.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming.
It's my pleasure,
Mine too.
and I very much look forward to the next time around.
Right.
Having the least musical person in the world on what's essentially a music podcast.
I'll get you to play Triangle later. It's all right.
Coming up for me in the next couple of weeks, I am debuting a new band, actually, the Cool Fools. We're going to be just heading along to the Morrison Blues Jam.
When?
On the Sunday the 27th. So we're going to head along.
This will be out by then?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, that's
cool.
right. This will
Sunday
be out next week,
27th
man.
at...
At the Morrison Hotel.
Morrison Hotel in Wollongabba.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's it. 2 p.m. every Sunday, the Morrison Blues Jam. It's run by Mark the Colonel Doherty. And there's always heaps of people there. And it's a really great way to spend a Sunday arvo. But I've got a new band with Greg Baker, blues legend, and Trevor Gallagher, blues legend. Yeah, just a three-piece. It's basically Kevin Bloody Wilson meets the blues, really. So it's going to be fun, and we're going to get along to the Morrison Blues Jam, play a few songs, and then hopefully start gigging that band too soon. And then the week after that, we're at Blues Arcadia. It's my main band, Blues Arcadia. We're at the Yamundi Hotel for the Offbeat Festival in Yamundi. So that's going to be a big one. It's going to be... I can't remember all the bands that are playing, but the main one that I'm excited about is Blues Arcadia, of course.
Naturally.
And the second main band that I'm excited about is going to be Vaudeville Smash, which they're basically disco funk from Melbourne, and I fucking love them. They're so good live, man. It's just, I can't hear them without dancing, and neither will you. So come along to the Offbeat Festival at Yamundi. Coming up on the 2nd of November. And then I've got a whole heap of other shit coming up after that. But they're the two big things that I can see in my calendar right now. What about you, Jobbie? Any plugs?
Check them out. My plugs? Well, we're
Hair
going
plugs.
to have James.
Yeah, James Price Davies from Queso Grande. He's going to be on next week.
Yep, that's our next podcast.
Yep.
And each week we promise to give you some great, awesome people.
Awesome
like
guests.
Alex.
That's it.
Mostly musicians, but this guy's an exception. We love
Heart
him.
of gold.
He is a genius.
Heart of black gold.
We'll have to call it.
Yeah, well,
That's just the clothing.
in the immortal words of Joseph Stalin, dark humour is like food. Not everybody gets it.
Mm-hmm.